The 2025 general elections were held in Ecuador on Sunday, April 13th. The results published by the National Electoral Council give as winner to Daniel Noboa. However, this process is under scrutiny because, according to specialists, there was a fraud of origin. Our correspondent Gabriela Mena tells us the details.
In Ecuador, Election Day ended with the announcement of the National Electoral Council CNE giving Daniel Noboa as the winner. However, this result generates surprise among diverse sectors. For experts, the scenario that Ecuador is going through can be cataloged as a fraud of origin. This because Daniel Noboa remained as president and candidate, managing to maneuver from the executive in his favor.
It
is not only the political pressure on the one hand, but also the lack of autonomy and of guaranteeing the transparency of these processes by the CNE. That is, unfortunately in Ecuador the law is there, but it ends up being dead slow because it happens that they remain at the service of the government in power. The law is not complied with.
But there is more. Noboa not only used state funds, which exceed $570 million, but he also used constitutional resources to decree a state of exception in Quito and 7 provinces where the candidate for the citizen revolution, Luisa Gonzalez, had the highest percentage of acceptance. In addition, he did not request a license from the National Assembly to begin his campaign period and only notified the CNE, ignoring the Ecuadorian constitution.
We must take into account that there has been a discrediting of the left and of progressivism and humanism, giving the impression that if a person, a candidate, a politician or a public official is progressive or humanist or has this tendency, he or she is a leftist and is practically associated with crime. That is what these people have been saying.
All this has made the different electoral observers question the lack of action on the part of the National Electoral Council and the transparency of this democratic day, for which they even sent an official letter to the CNE notifying them of these localized irregularities. In addition, they question why Daniel Noboa closed his electoral campaign with international artists when the code of democracy does not allow it.
Noboa, as I have said on several occasions, is a threat to democracy. He is a threat to the rule of law. What is going to happen now that he has all the power and has been re-elected for 4 more years? It is very likely that there is a high risk that he will commit more abuses and that it will be an arbitrary government.
From the Citizen Revolution, the candidate, Luisa Gonzalez, stated that she does not acknowledge the results presented by the CNE and affirmed that fraud was committed in the registration of votes to benefit him against the will of the people, a point with which the citizens agree.
We must open the ballot boxes because the fraud was seen. The fraud is seen. It is seen because in the territory we were talking to the people. In the territory it was seen that they were all with Luisa.
Now, the Citizen Revolution and allied forces, as well as multiple sectors of the citizenry, demand the reopening of the polls and transparency of the results, as well as the investigation of the last-minute arbitrary changes in electoral precincts, the military intimidation and obstruction of electoral observers, and, above all, the manipulation of official records.
Gabriela Mena, teleSUR Ecuador.
The Panamanian people is ready to take to the streets in defense of their sovereignty in the face of the imperialist attempts by the U.S. President Donald Trump. Let's see more in the following report by our correspondent Belén de los Santos.
Panamanians are once again ready to take to the streets in defense of their sovereignty. After a week in which the government received U.S. officials and once again yielded to the will of the Trump administration, allowing increased presence of U.S. military in Panamanian territory, the major working sectors are coming together to defend the people's resources, which they understand are being handed over to foreign powers.
Because Panama has a serious problem, and it is that the mafiocracy that we define as the corrupt oligarchy that thinks it owns the country, together with its servant politicians, the traditional politicians and a new generation of politicians, are dedicated to the plundering and looting of the people's resources, so there is widespread dissatisfaction in that sense, and we are facing a problem in which these traitors are finally receiving Rubio. They are receiving the heads of the Southern Command, they are receiving CIA agents, and now the Hegseth, Secretary of War or Defense of the United States, has arrived. They have practically signed memorandums that violate the political constitution in its Article 91 and 325.
According to one of the country's main union leaders, Saúl Méndez, documents signed by the Panamanian executive constitute an act against the homeland, as the constitution states that the president cannot concede national territory in any way to foreign powers and that any change regarding the canal's defense should be approved by the assembly and through a popular consultation. This context adds to the social discontent regarding the mismanagement of sovereign resources and the recently approved social security reform that directly affects the working class.
The Panamanian people have always been a peaceful people, but a people of struggle who demand respect, who demand that their fundamental social claims be fulfilled. In recent periods, we have seen a country where the economy is growing, but living conditions are very precarious. The fourth place with the worst distribution of wealth in the world. This has generated national discontent, and Panamanians have asked for a canal in favor of the interest of Panamanians. A canal for the country and not a country for a canal. And on top of that comes the government of José Raúl Molino, a reactionary government that calls itself a business government, but is, above all, in the face of the aggression after Donald Trump became President of the United States, a submissive government dragged along that has allowed a series of situations that we Panamanians thought had been overcome. For example, the military presence of the United States in our country.
As in 2023, when Panama saw massive protests against the expansion of foreign mining in the country, the political climate in the nation anticipates a new cycle of demonstrations as the working class is determined to fight against the impositions of a U.S.-aligned government that prioritizes foreign mandates over its own people. Unions from different economic sectors are organizing a joint action plan with a great demonstration set for April 24th, when a general strike is likely to be announced. The rejection of U.S. military bases in the country, as well as the construction of a new dam in Rio Indio, and the need to repeal the Social Security law are the main causes fueling the struggle.
Panama's sovereignty is cared for by Panamanians. The people have risen up as of Wednesday, April 23 RD. The teachers of this country have announced that we are going to go on a general strike, and as of April 24, after the great national march that we are going to have that day, it is most probable that a national strike of all other sectors will be announced.
And hence the slogan, "This country is not for sale, this country is being defended," and this is a fact that we have demonstrated with the blood of Panamanian men and women.
Belén de los Santos from Panama City for teleSUR English.
Welcome back to From the South. Palestinian authorities reported that at least 17 Palestinians were killed and 69 wounded in Israeli attacks on the last 24 hours. This way, at least 3 people were martyred and others injured when Israeli warplanes attacked a tent sheltering displaced people west of the town of Khan Yunis in the south of the devastated Palestinian enclave. 2 more people were killed in an airstrike on a tent near the B spot sports stadium in Beit Lahija in northern Gaza. The latest figures bring the number of people killed since Israel broke the ceasefire on March 18th to 1,630, with 4,302 wounded, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Doctors in Gaza denounced a 40% increase in the number of children killed, a figure that currently exceeds 500 children deaths. According to reports from Al Nasser Hospital, to date, 7,065 children have been maimed, 834 children have suffered amputations, and around 500 have died since Israel resumed its attacks on the Palestinian territory in October 23rd. This crisis is aggravated by the severe shortage of medicines in the enclave, which makes the survival and recovery of affected children even more difficult. In parallel to its genocidal campaign in Gaza, the Israeli army carries out massive assaults in various locations in the occupied West Bank. At least 3 Palestinians were arrested and taken away blindfolded by the Israeli occupation forces during a military raid in the town of Anata on Tuesday morning. Hours earlier, a Palestinian child was rushed to hospital after being shot in the back by occupying forces in the city of Awarta. His condition is still unknown. Meanwhile, 79 consecutive days of the Israeli assault on the city of Tulkarem, with thousands displaced, hundreds arrested, homes destroyed, and at least 13 people killed since the beginning of the aggression.